This is your life. This is Wimbledon's main street, and I'm heading across the road here to this theatre, chasing a famous pantomime character. And what a character is playing the part. Right now, he and the rest of the cast are about to be interviewed for a television program, London Scene. Now, because I couldn't afford to be seen, I've had to keep away from the theatre at the last moment, which is now, and I'm going to change places with the original interviewer, who's due to make a typical traditional pantomime entrance.
Right, come on! Just a moment. I want right to evict this poor defenceless widow.
Jim!
Mother Goose.
Don't interfere, young fellow, me lad. I want Mother Goose thrown out of there. You just keep out of this. Mother Goose, are you free?
I'm free! What's going on outside, mate? I can't have all this fight. Oh, sir, I appeal to you.
Appeal dismissed. 6 months. Get the furniture out.
You're not going to take me goods and chattels, no. Is there no one can help me?
Yes, Mother Goose. I can.
It's Barbara Castle.
With my magic power, I will send someone to your aid.
Oh.
Well. Mother Goose, you weren't expecting me, but I've rushed here to say, are you free? Because tonight, comedy actor John Inman, this is your life.
Oh,
I hardly recognize you under all that. All right, we're all set with the car outside for the studio. Surprises you can change, of course.
Oh, I am glad.
Thank you all very much. Thank you indeed. And right away, my thanks to your Panto pals for helping me pull a fast one on Mother Goose. Arthur English, Mike Hope and Albie Keane, Ken Wood, Leonie Collette, Barbara Newman, and Gillian Humphreys.
A drunken goose, that's all we need. A drunken goose. So well.
I've heard of hissed geese. Well, John Inman, this is your life, and it's the story of a one-time assistant and a gents outfitters in Blackpool who's won the popularity of millions by playing the part of a fictional gents outfitter, Mr. Humphreys, in the BBC comedy series Are You Being Served?
Just a moment, sir. I've got a customer here who says he can't come in to be measured for a suit, and could we send him one?
What size and colour?
Can I have your size and colour, sir? He's white, but he doesn't know his size.
Good morning, sir. Oh, yes. Yes. Have you got a tape measure there? Ah, well, if you'll take the measurements, we'll write them down. He's got a nice voice.
Arthur English, you play Mr. Harmon in that series. What's it like working with John?
Well, you can't really call it work, Eamon. It's fun. It really is. I mean, I've not done... Well, I'm in Are You Being Served, but also doing the pantomime. I've not worked pantomime for about 6 years, but the chance came to work with this guy, and, well, you don't turn up chances to work with real professionals. It's marvellous.
Well, now, John, as we've seen, you're starring, as Arthur says, in Panto this Christmas, but here you are, if you look over there, in your very first pantomime starring role at the age of 14 as Widow Twankey in Aladdin at the Claremont School in Blackpool. Ooh, now, Wash Day always got some of the biggest laughs because of a special prop you used. Do you remember?
A mangle. Yes. Oh, yes, the mangle. They've still got it, I believe.
Have they?
I believe so.
Well, let's check up. If you continue looking at that screen, we're going to Blackpool now to hear about those days from someone who appeared with you, your brother Jeff, and the teacher who produced that pantomime, Dennis McHarry. There's the mangle.
Hello, kid. Remember when you used to put me through this? Well, you wouldn't get me to do it today.
This is the same mangle, John, that we made for you when you were playing Widow Twankey all those years ago, remember?
I'm still using the same
and
material.
we're still putting boys through.
Do you remember the time you put the Mother Goose on at the church? And you made the goose all by yourself? And, well, you got me to go into it with a little peephole at the front. And on opening night, when I walked on, your face was a bit naughty because there was smoke coming through the gills. And it was me having a crafty dragon apart drive. I don't think you were very pleased about that.
John, I'm delighted that wonderful early talent you showed and the determination you had to get into theatre at all costs has resulted in your reaching the top and giving us all such wonderful entertainment on television.
And with one rub of the magic lamp from Blackpool, they're here. Your former schoolmaster, Dennis McNary. Your brother, Jeff. And with him, of course, your mother, Mary. Jeff's wife, Pat. And their daughters, your two nieces, Debbie and Jackie.
Bring your hanky.
Well, John Inman, this is your life, and you were born Frederick John Inman on June 28, 1935, at 18 Garden Street, Preston, where your late father was a master hairdresser. But you showed very early indications of a stage career. Here you are, age 3.
You've been in that tin box, haven't you?
Mary, he was in mid-song when that picture was taken, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, Eamon. He was always singing and dancing and inventing characters. And the one character he invented was Bill. And he used to use his grandfather's walking cane and go behind the curtain on the door and make his entrance. Bill's here, then dance.
Well, John, you go to Cambridge House School in Preston, and even at the age of 5, you're inventing comedy sketches to amuse your school friends. Now, some of those performances took place in the attic of a pal's house and always ended with this song.
She'll be coming round the mountains when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountains.
That neighbourhood pal in Preston more than 30 years ago, Derek Carwin. Derek, after your attic, John progressed to a bigger theatre, didn't he?
That's right, Eamon. He went on to a friend's garage.
Yes, and we're going there to that garage right now, to 214 Brockholes View, Preston, to hear from a school days pal you haven't seen for 27 years, Peter Diamond.
Hello, John. Do you remember the old times that we spent together when we used to give shows in this old garage here?
Gosh, look at it.
Do you remember when we did our first professional show together at the New Victoria, Preston, many, many years ago? Wouldn't it be nice if we could be together again?
Well, together again you are, because from 27 years ago, here is Peter Diamond.
I expected a puff of smoke when
What was that show you did with Peter, can you remember?
Cinderella. It was, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, in the garage, you mean? Yes, it was Cinderella.
No, you
I wasn't Cinderella, no.
Well, now, when you're 13 years old, you and your family move from Preston to Blackpool and take over a holiday boarding house at 55 Bank Street, and there you are, just 14, in the front garden.
What a lovely lad.
Now, in school drama productions, you work hard backstage too, even helping with the sound effects. And one day, during dress rehearsal for the opera, Mary England, you're very unhappy about an offstage sound effect which is supposed to be a big man falling in a river.
John said it sounded more like a little stone being dropped in a tea mug.
The school pal who was working on the sound effects with you over 25 years ago, Tommy DeVere. Well, Tommy, exactly how were you and John getting that sound effect?
By dropping a stone in a tea mug. Eamon, just like that, you know. I think so.
Well, now, Johnny was doing all the criticising. Did he have any answer to that problem?
Oh, yes, he did. Just wasn't good enough for you, so he made me go around the school and find a gigantic, big stone to drop it into a big bath, remember? Do you remember? And well, I found it. I think there was Fred Roberts and a few of us, and we dragged it to the, to the show. And I think
drenched everybody.
Yes, I drenched everybody. You know. I remember you saying to me, John, you said, "Great, Tom, great, but you ruined my makeup."
Thank you, Tommy De Vere. Well, not quite as successful as that pantomime washing mangle, but 23 years later, when you'd become a professional comedy actor, you'd pantomime audiences laughing with another trick machine. You're appearing in that panto with a star who features you and the machine in his own television show.
Now, you walk round, John, if you would, and put your head through the little hole in the middle there. That's right. And then Ali's going to kind of lock it off. This is for your own safety, to keep you in one place, you see. And if I remember rightly, it's very hard to keep you in one place for long. Right, now put your hands there, there's a good one. That's it. And a bit of rope round there, and your other hand through there. That's it. And now put your foot through the hole in the bottom, John. You remember how this went. That's great. And your foot through there. All right. You used to as well. Right. Now, Ali, just a gentle heave on the top. And a heave on the bottom rope. That's it. Cleat off.
Only just right.
Yes. I said cleat. You remembered. You're doing it very well. Just let everything go loose.
It's not easy.
That's it. Now. Oh, yes. Oh, he remembers, you see. Actually, it's quite funny, isn't it? You're doing it very well.
And he's here tonight, television's master of magic, your good friend, David Nixon. David, do you not think that that trick might be stretching John's talents a little too far?
We stretched them a bit further, actually, than that, because at the first rehearsal with Ali, I remember we got his head fixed in the machine, and then we all went off and had a tea break and left him there. I wanted to thank John very much. He was absolutely marvellous to my daughter Mandy, because she was about 11 during that pantomime, and she's very stage-struck, and she loves to be backstage. And John does all his own tatting, you see, all his costumes. He was my daughter, and all the sequins, every sequin in place, immaculate. And Mandy used to go in and learn how to sew, and she's got very good at it.
Has she?
Thanks to you.
I'll get her a job. I need some sequin sewing.
I'd like to. The first time she came backstage, we had the show just started, and everybody's walking around in their costumes, and she came into my dressing room and she said, "Daddy, I've just seen a most peculiar-looking lady coming out of the men's toilet." It was him. I think the most important thing to say about John, and I'd like to say it, is that I have never, ever heard him say an unkind or even a critical word about anybody. And it's lovely to see you sitting there. Good luck.
Thank
always.
you very much. Thank you, David Nixon. Well, John, stage and television stardom was still just a dream when you left school in 1950 and started work at Fox's departmental store in Church Street, Blackpool, in the gents' outfitting department. And that's when you first hear the words now famous in television's Are You Being Served, but spoken to you by your real-life boss.
I say, John, are you free?
He was head of the gents' outfitting department at Fox's 25 years ago, Jack Holden. Now, Jack, you trained John how to serve customers. What was he like, you know, working in a real-life departmental store?
Well, Eamon, he was a jolly good assistant, really. You know, he was easy to learn, easy to teach, and he was eager to learn. I was sorry that I had eventually to persuade him to leave us for better things, so I suggested he should go up to London. And I'm pleased to say that, having applied for the job, he got it.
Thank you, Jack Holden. I'm curious, in fact, John, what was the toughest part about being a real-life salesman?
Well, I never did any work. You see, Jack was absolutely not. I didn't. I used to make props in the fitting room. And he'd say, there's a customer... Oh, it doesn't matter, I'll see to him. You get on with whatever you're making. It was wonderful. Is that right?
Anyhow, you took his advice, and in 1954 you set off for London and a job as a displayman with the famous Austin Reed chain of outfitters. On Fridays each week, you join other members of the staff of the display department at a conference to discuss the week's work.
And I remember John was always late.
He joined the firm the same time as yourself. You worked there together for 5 years, but it's 20 since you last met. Eddie Whitehouse.
Oh. They're digging him up.
Lovely to see you again.
So, Eddie, what did...
I've got one like that.
That's quite nice.
It's not bad.
What? He used to get into trouble for arriving late.
Well, anyone else would have done, Eamon, but not John. He used to breeze into the office with the boss and everybody glaring at him for being late, as usual. But he'd soon have everybody falling apart because he'd just look at the boss straight in the eye and he'd say, do you remember what you said, John?
No, Tell me. Tell me, I'll write it down.
Well, you used to say, what's up, have I missed the start of the big film?
Well, John, you were late for the boss's meetings, but he's on time for yours tonight because he's here, your former boss from those days, Roy Dyer. So you found it difficult to lose your temper with John?
It was impossible, Eamon. He was so funny. But he was also very good at his job. But I knew he wouldn't stay with us that long because he constantly told us of his real ambition, which was to go on the stage.
Thank you, Roy Dyer and Eddie Whitehouse. Thank you. So when you're 21, you make the decision to quit your promising career at Austin Reed's to try to make your living on the stage. After a brief spell in rep, you find yourself out of work, and Jeff, you fixed him up with a job. Where was that?
Yes, I was working at a Gents Outfitters at the time, and I got him fixed up with me, you know.
So you're back where you started, John, but not for long. If you can't get a job on stage, you decide to look for a job backstage. And 20 years ago, you go to the Royalty Theatre Chester for an appointment with a man whose decision that day was to prove the turning point in your life.
Arthur Lane.
Yes, today he lives and works 6,500 miles away in South Africa.
But I'm not 6,500 miles away tonight, John. I'm right here.
My boy! The man who made that vital decision, we've flown him from his home in Cape Town to be with you tonight, Arthur Lane. So what decided you to give John that backstage job?
Well, I met him and he said to me, I am the finest stage manager in the business. And I believed him.
But as a stage manager, there was one night when he got a chance to act, wasn't there?
There was indeed. Now, I'm going right back to the very early 60s. He was my stage manager in a show that I took to the Grand Theatre Blackpool. And at 4:30 on the opening night, the leading man came to me and he said, I said, are you telling me you've lost your voice? And he handed me a doctor's certificate to say he'd got acute laryngitis. I said, John, take a script, go in the dressing room, you're on tonight playing the lead. And he said, what about a uniform? I said, well, what about a uniform? It's in the dressing. He said, but the leading man, this was made for a man 6'4". I said, John, don't make difficulties. The curtain goes up in an hour's time. I went in front, explained everything to the audience, and they gave him a standing ovation when he came on. And I give you my word, this is the point to the whole story. He got the script in his hand, and if he looked at it twice during the show, that was as much as he did.
Thank you, Arthur Lane. And you go on tour with many of Arthur's productions, and 15 years ago you meet up with someone with whom you appear in pantomime every Christmas for 9 years, and in those pantos he always greeted you like this.
Has anybody seen my sister?
You and he played the Ugly Sisters in many a production of Cinderella all over Britain, as he is again doing so this year at Nottingham. Your great pal, Barry Howard.
Oh, you got yourself a new ball.
As the Ugly Sisters, Barry, you proved great laughter makers, but there was one laugh that wasn't expected.
Yes, we've had quite a few that weren't expected, but I know the one you mean. Yes, it was in the boudoir scene. That's the scene in Cinderella where the Ugly Sisters get ready for the ball, you see. And the management gave us a marvellous set with disappearing beds that went back into the wall. And we do all that, and John goes onto the bed, says his cue, and pulled away. And I say, has anybody seen my sister? And the kids shout back, she's gone through a hole in the wall. And he comes back, I think the lads backstage have been out for a pint in the interval, because he came back at such a rate of knots, and nearly knocked me over. So I say, you clumsy apeth, you see. And we carry on with the scene, and the audience start to laugh, and we think, my word, this is going well. And I was wearing a pair of very large...
Yes?
A good bust I had, you see. So I look at him, and he's starting to laugh. So I said, what are you laughing at? She said, well, look at your bosom.
Willits, dear.
That wasn't the word you used. No. So I said, well, what's the matter with him? He said, well, you've only got one. So we turned round to look for it, and I got a boob at the front and a boob at the back. He'd come back with such force, he'd have gone round there, and you don't know your own strength. That's the trouble.
Kept it in, though, didn't we?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very hard.
Okay.
All right now, John, I want to take you back to a pantomime which you and Barry were the Ugly Sisters 7 Christmases ago at Oxford. The star of the show arrives at the theatre and gets quite a shock.
Because the Ugly Sisters had taken over my dressing room.
Well, he's obviously got over the shock because he's here to greet you again, that great entertainer, Roy Castle. Very good.
No, that's not the one. That's not the one. No, it was another one. I was thinking. Oh, it's you! Hey! How are you, kid? All right. Good to see you.
Doing a bit of triple tonguing.
Little bit of triple tonguing. Oh, why not? I tell you, it's absolutely superb because my lad Daniel, was about 5 at the time, and he came to see the pantomime. No, he thought I didn't work, you see, because well, I used to sort of leave home when they'd gone to bed, and I was still in bed when they got up. You see, they thought I was slovenly and that, and a bit of a dropout. And the first time they ever saw me work was matinees in pantomime, and they came to see the panto, didn't they? And afterwards in the car, you see, he said to me, he says, Daddy, he says, it's rather strange. He said, I noticed that there were ugly sisters on the stage, but there were ugly brothers in the dressing room.
And how did they get the #1 dressing room?
Well, because they got all those costumes.
He only had a comb and a trumpet.
That's right. Yeah. And I never even used the comb. Cheers, John.
Thanks, Roy Castle. Well, John, as we've heard, you cheerfully served as a hard-working apprenticeship in 2 careers in the menswear trade and in show business, and 4 years ago, your experience in the two came together to bring you stardom in that comedy hit, Are You Being Served? And 7 of those faithful servants at Grace Brothers Departmental Store are on a staff outing to our studios tonight. Your colleagues and great pals, Molly Sugden, Whitney Richard, Arthur Bruff, Nicholas Smith, and Harold Bennett, and with them the 2 men who created the character of Mr. Humphreys for you, the show's writers David Croft and Jeremy Lloyd. Molly, tell me, how do the staff regard John in real life?
Oh, well, how could we help but love him? Oh, bless him. He's never failingly good-humoured, and he's so witty. Well, it's more like going to a party than going to work when...
Well, with that tribute from your colleagues, John, we end your story, except there's someone else who'd like to add a final word.
I have known John for 15 years, and there's nobody in our business who deserves his success more.
He's made a last-minute car dash from his own show in Coventry to be here on your special night. That great comedy star, Danny LaRue. Danny, I know that you've gone to a lot of trouble to be here tonight.
No trouble. There's no trouble at all. See, the marvellous thing about our business is it's all colleagues. We all talk tonight. I've been watching, terrified. I thought, everybody's on. What am I going to say? The one thing, thank God somebody hasn't said it. The greatest thing about, everybody talks about stars, but it's people make stars. And people only recognize people. And it's because you're such a marvellous person that they love you first, and they love your character second. You're a lovely man, you're a hard worker, and you're a great star. It's my privilege. I've run down the M1, it's full of fog.
But that was clear and to the point, and that's what we want to say. John Inman, this is your life.
Fill that one in.